Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to today's Phi Chat. I am Drew Kerwood. I currently serve as the Associate Director for Prevention and Wellness with Phi Sigma Kappa. Phi Chats began over the summer as a partnership between Phi Sigma Kappa and Phi Kappa Psi. Both organizations saw a need to offer free informational sessions for its members about issues facing chapters and college students in these unprecedented times. To view previously recorded Phi Chats, you can either check out Phi Kappa Psi's YouTube page or under the program section of their website, or if you're a Phi Sig, you can check in on the My Phi Sig platform. For today's Phi Chat, we are joined with James Crawford. He currently works in, I'll let actually James introduce himself, but he is joining us to talk a little bit about how we can better utilize our alumni and beyond just asking them for donations, right? How can we get them more involved and use them, better utilize them and their strengths to support our chapters. So James, I'll hand it off to you and you can introduce yourself and take it from there.
Cool. Thank you, Drew. Timothy and Joseph, thank you for joining today. We are going to be doing a little bit of, I had like more of an interactive session plan, and I'll share my screen in a quick second. If interactivity is not your thing and you'd rather just chat, that's also okay too. Kind of just more of like my general style is like, as a facilitator, I'm gonna facilitate and not teach, if that makes sense, right? So I'm facilitating you to the watering hole to drink, if that's your choice, go for it. Versus like force feeding people. I chose to not really do a PowerPoint because I didn't know if we were going to have more undergraduates or alumni participating today. And if we had a lot of undergraduates participating, it was a percentage of the key audience, right, of examining how they engage with leadership or alumni. I would imagine that they are PowerPoint or slide decked out. So my intent was to not add another slide deck on top of slide decks. But my name is James Crawford. I work at the University of Georgia. I'm the Student Affairs Staff Development Lead. Before that, the Assistant Director for Staff Development, and before that, the Assistant Director for Staff Development and Assessment. So I work in a division of close to 650, 700 folks, ranging from full-time to part-time. People with academic backgrounds in higher education and student affairs, people that don't have those backgrounds, right? So you have your person that has a PhD in student theory and development to a person that doesn't, right? A general building contractor, custodial services manager, so a wide array of professional development experiences and opportunities. And that's where I kind of focus the majority of my work. My elevator speech pitch is a lot of the HR things, with exception to workplace discrimination, sexual harassment, those kind of things, right? So examining what is the culture of learning that exists within the Division of Student Affairs, how can we enhance that and promote growth and development within the staff that work here, besides just paying them paychecks, right? And so if there's opportunity to help those people grow, what can we do to provide a session for them and things like that? So that's my lens. I share that. That's my lens on what I'm bringing to the table. Previous experiences that may help with adding context to what I do right now. Occasionally I volunteer with Delta Chi. I try not to over volunteer because I prefer the young guns to lead the charge. So I don't want to hog the joy that comes with that. But I volunteer with Delta Chi Fraternity, member of Delta Chi Fraternity. Before coming to the University of Georgia, I worked at Vanderbilt University, where I was the assistant director for Greek life. I advised Panhellenic, IFC, and MPHC, depending on the year and what was going on. Worked directly with the Phi Psi chapter there as well. So before that, I went to University of South Carolina in graduate school and the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, where I helped found the chapter of Delta Chi and that whole deal. So there I held a position as I was vice president for 2 years, which is president in Delta Chi land. I was vice president, or B, for 2 years, and then was over involved as an undergraduate. right? So being in Wilmington, being in North Carolina, we had a level of alumni base that was prominent from Virginia, some in South Carolina, but not really a lot of people in Eastern Seaboard North Carolina, right? Like Wilmington as a city doesn't have a substantial populace as Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, or Charlotte, North Carolina, what have you, right? So we saw firsthand what it was like to not necessarily have a quote unquote pipeline of alumni to dabble with and engage and connect with. Our general process was we're going to email them and hopefully they show up, right? And we have one guy, and he's the E that the kind of you're kind of like alumni chair to kind of just keep it simple. It's his job to email these folks or call these folks and get them to show up to stuff. And then maybe if they show up to something like a Founders Day event, because we think that they care the most about Founders Day events, then maybe we could ask them for like a check to cover our Rush t-shirts or our, whatever kind of event we have coming up, right? So what did we see there? We saw a list of folks from our headquarters that they gave us like, hey, here's points of contacts. And then we saw people that we didn't really vibe with, right? Like guys that were from like substantially hazing chapters that we were like, oh, that's not a thing that we're going to be doing here. This isn't your thing. Or guys that we just thought were not us, right? And so then we started seeing some degree of our membership kind of going, well, maybe we only need to interact with our alumni from our chapter. Well, if you found a chapter in 2006, how many alumni are you really going to have from the chapter in 2007? 3, right? So like we were kind of just grasping at straws, and I saw that trend everywhere, right? At Vanderbilt or wherever institution you want to work at, I only want to socialize with the people that know me because our chapter is different. Okay. Is it really? Probably not, to be quite honest. But we like to think that we're special, so we're only going to interact with these Vanderbilt Phi Psis or these Vanderbilt folks, right? So navigating that and examining like, well, what value do our alumni provide is a very fascinating question, right? And then on the flip side of that, as an alumnus, what is the point of me being involved, right? Like if I look at the cost benefits analysis and navigating, I have family, I have a mortgage, I have a job, I have maybe potentially a newborn, I have a car, I have vacations that I want to go on, I have friends that I want to hang out with, I have brothers from my own chapter, whether it's this one or that one that I want to spend time with. So if you look at that financial commitment, just from a money standpoint, I might not really show up to a random cookout with poorly cooked burgers or hot dogs with a bunch of random dudes that I don't know anything about and give them a check for thousands of dollars to help fund the homecoming float out of the connection of like brotherhood. It's valuable. It's incredible. There's a fascinating pipeline there of like being able to tap into that, but we can't just rely on that, right? And so what I have for you today is, Drew, can you give me screen sharing or co-host, I guess? Joseph and Timothy, if you're still with me, nod. Just kidding. I can't see your screens, so I just thought it would be. Let's see, here we go. So the purpose of today's chat, right, and discussion is navigating, let me close out my email too. When you think of alumni engagement, what comes to mind? Can you all see that all right? Drew, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So let me pull up chat while I'm here, just in case you all type something while I'm. So we have like the kind of abstract program stuff, right? Is like what exists within your area. So what I have for you today, and I'm going to drop a link to this so you can engage. Visitor link. Cool, copy link. I'm going to put this in the chat. If we were at a conference or in a meeting room or whatever, a boardroom or whatever, I would have giant sticky notes. and we would have no virus, and I would give you stickies and pens, and I would ask for you just to go around the board and anonymously respond to these things. And you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and that whole deal with this program. If you click over, so I have it broken into everyone, and then any undergraduates present, any graduate / alumni present are on the bottom of this number 2. And then down here in the very bottom left, we have a parking lot. So if we don't cover a question that you have, or if you have a question that you don't want to lose or forget, you're going to drop it in there. So how do you do this, James? How do I participate? You double click into it. You'll see a cursor. Timothy's not seeing the link just yet. Let's try it again. Hopefully I'm communicating with all panelists. Timothy, I also would try and send it to you just to yourself. Timothy, let me know if that works. You click in, and we might have just lost, but you click in and you see a cursor, right? Perfect. And you type, okay, why am I here today? I am an alumni member, let's put that, and I want to connect to my chapter more, right? That's I saw that link, I registered, I showed up, that's why I'm here, right? So you click that, you click away from it so that it's not highlighted anymore to maximize it. You double click and boom, here's another sticky, right? So what I would love for Timothy, and then if we can get Joseph back, hopefully he will join us. And Drew and I are going to play along, Timothy, so it's not as you having to speak on behalf of all people in the world. If you could do this, click into this. What's one thing you hope to get out of today's session? If you're an undergraduate, Timothy, I don't know if you are or not, go ahead and hop in, and Drew and I will both be undergrads and grads and just kind of, put different hats on to kind of facilitate a discussion and dialogue here. Cool, and I'll give you maybe about 5-10 minutes to kind of go through and just kind of add questions. On the bottom right hand side, there's a move mode where you can move it, and some zooming if the font is tiny, which it likely is when you load in. But yeah. I don't have any music, which I guess I should have thought of some music. A nice chill coffee shop experience, maybe?
Perfect.
Yeah. Quick time check. Let's give it maybe 2 to 3 more minutes. And you're also welcome to add stuff that you've heard other people say. So it doesn't have to be just like, this is a thing that James or Drew or Timothy thinks, and this is how I feel. Like, this could also be a buddy of yours from your chapter or what have you, navigating all of that. Okay. So while you continue typing or finish typing your current thought, I'm going to just kind of recap what we have in the everyone section, and then I'll work my way to undergraduates, and then the alumni section, and I'm going to debrief occasionally and toss out. Why are you here today? I'm an alumni member and I want to connect with my chapter more, get ideas to help our chapters better connect with area and chapter specific alumni. I want to get different ideas to share with the chapters that I work with on how they can better connect with alumni members. What is one thing you hope to leave with today's sessions? Tips on how undergraduates can better reach out to / connect with their alumni and build that base. Different areas for alumni events / activities that can help build an alumni base for the chapter. Foundations for a toolkit to provide to chapters looking to increase alumni involvement. Let's see, let me zoom in a little bit more. Let me do a new share and share my whole screen. There we go. What are your biggest hurdles with regards to engaging alumni? I don't know how to talk to them, getting them interested in becoming involved. I don't know how or why they should be involved. What is the ideal level of alumni involvement? Help us get jobs / guidance in the career. Connecting with the chapter outside of the social 1 to 2 social functions a year, alumni on hand to provide support as the chapter needs, but taking considerations for alumni's time. We send out a alumni newsletter, updates in the chapter's all members Facebook group. Are you involved? If so, what does involvement look like for you? Somewhat involved. If they reach out, I respond to things. I'm involved at the national level, volunteering for leadership programs, Previously served as a chapter advisor, but not currently working with any local chapters. I like to volunteer where I can, but don't know what that looks like. Afraid to reach out if I don't know what that looks like. Involved on a national level, but not as much on a local level. If I felt truly connected to them, it would be worth my time. Nothing else is new. Nothing else new. It's already worth my time. Chapters / members that are open to support / help I can provide as an alumnus. Seconded for the felt truly connected to them, feeling heard and appreciated. Help me with how else could the fraternity invest in you? Help me with navigating the job search process. Ask me what I cared about and helped champion the causes I care about. Help me reflect on who I am after graduation, on development opportunities, ongoing developmental opportunities geared more for alumni. These Phi Chats are good. It'd be cool to see some specific for alumni, other opportunities to connect and be involved with other alumni, life skills, buying a car, house, setting up a 401k, IRA, etc. Okay. So a lot, right? And nothing that we're going to solve in the next 20 minutes by any means. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to map out some ideas on this sheet, and then I'm going to export this and the ideas on this sheet so that Drew can send to any interested participants, or Joseph if he's not able to log back in. So well, I'm here today. I'm an alumni member. I want to connect with my chapter more. I want to get different ideas to share with chapters. I need ideas. I need tools, right? I need structures. I need different ideas for alumni events, activities that can help build the alumni base for the chapter. So you have this navigation, or this kind of tension that I'm just going to toss out there. You have your I'm going to put them in thirds, right? You have your recently graduated alumni. You have your 10, 15, 20 years out alumni. And then you have your alumni that are a little more seasoned, we'll put it gently, right? They're a little more seasoned. They may have been around when the fraternity was founded 18 something years ago. They're a little in that zone, right? So you have your generational divide and a variety of components, right? So here's an assumption I'm making within this organization, is that both of these organizations are all male organizations, right? And so the next step with that assumption is, what sociological norms exist when it comes to, as men, what do I need to connect with other men, right? I need an event, I need a purpose, I need a reason. Me reaching out just to check in on them, if I don't have a substantial relationship with them, how is that going to be received? Is that going to be worthwhile? That's going to take a lot of emotional energy as an alumnus that I could be giving towards my job, my partner, other things, to connect with humans that I don't really know much about, right? It's that kind of fear or anxiety or paranoia that some might elicit when they think about what it was like to join the fraternity for the first time. Walking up to a recruitment event as an undergraduate or a graduate, right? I'm making more of an undergraduate assumption here, but let's say there's a tabling event for all IFC chapters on this campus. That takes a lot of gumption to walk up to campus partners, colleagues, peers, students, whatever you want to call them, and be like, hey, what are your rush events this week? At a minimum, right? Are they going to like me? Are they not going to like me? Are they going to think that I'm weird? Am I going to fit in? I really want to be a part of them. All that fear comes back, but in a different way, right? Well, now I don't even know these humans because there's a generational divide here, right? So what resources are we giving alumni and undergraduates to navigate that generational divide? Because there is that kind of well, they need to get accustomed to me attitude that I would argue most organizations and people have, right? Is you figure it out. I'm you just need to learn, because no one either really told me how to do it, or I just built the plane as I was trying to fly it, right? So what resources, books, TED Talks, videos, other communities that they have with alumni, what are things that we know to be able to examine the challenges that they face? So my most immediate answer is some sort of anonymous survey, right? So something like this, you could this could easily be an interactive, a all alumni conference call. I think Zoom is allowing for 80 folks to join. So whatever regions that you want to break it down in, or specific chapter sizes that you want to break it down in, you find all the emails for those alumni and you send them this, and you poll them through something like this, or survey, some sort of survey method, or capturing of attendance, right? There's an assumption that like, what are the, and then like, how are we going to navigate the barriers to participation in this, right? So like, just to participate in this session alone, which is just like a part of the system and the process, and that's just like, it is what it is, you have to register, right? Like I got to give you my name and my email, and you're going to give me a link, and you're going to give me a calendar invite, and I can't just like pop in when convenient because of like Zoom bombing, right? Where people could join in and like mess around with it or what have you. So how do we potentially on the front end craft it to where as an alumnus, I can just jump in and jump out when if my baby starts crying, I can go to the other room and be like, okay, mute the screen. So what is the level of activation energy or Timothy, if you have a thought or an idea or whatever please feel free to unmute. Like we're going to crosstalk. Also, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll read it out, like whatever you're comfortable with. And what is the level of activation energy? So, oh no, what did I just do? So navigating this, Google Forms. So using this as an example, if I'm Drew or if I'm Timothy, like my coaching of you all is examining what feedback do I have about alumni? So I'm not making any assumptions about their experience, right? So like, how am I navigating the alumni experience and how am I examining it and breaking it down through those generational gaps, those divides, et cetera, along with the challenge that they think that they see, right? So these are assumptions that I put for some of these in here for undergraduates and graduates. So you could do some sort of survey, some sort of assessment, some sort of quick measurement that's like, look, your chapter's not going to get shut down if you put, we interact with 0 alumni, right? Like, okay, like that, there's plenty of other reasons to potentially shut your chapter down. That's not one of them, like, to be quite frank. Like, unless, I mean, I don't know Phi Si's rules, like Drew does, right, as an employee. I'm pretty sure there's no policy that's like, you didn't send your alumni newsletter out on time, and therefore you're on probation, no more social events whatsoever, right?
Yeah, neither Phi Sig or Phi Psi, I believe, has that policy. So yeah, not a reason to stress out.
Cool. So like within Phi Sig and Phi Psi both, like navigating that. So my general kind of question there is like, so then as an undergraduate member, what is my baseline expectation for alumni engagement? You could do something like this. You could send a survey out to to the membership. You could send a survey out to like, ultimately, we got to get people's voice. How are we getting that? Like that's the ultimate download for that, right? Is how do I know what you care about as an alumnus or as an undergraduate member if I don't ask you? With the survey, whether it's Timothy drafting the survey or it's Jim Bob undergraduate drafting the survey, there needs to be a component that captures what do you want out of this, if anything, and be honest, because like I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste my time trying to talk you into showing up to an alumni chapter area cookout if you don't want to be there, right? Now, backtracking a little bit, there's plenty of opportunity for us to examine how are we making these undergraduates be prepared to be an engaged alumnus, right? Like, is this a part of the member education process? Is this a part of the overall membership chapter engagement process? So it's kind of attacking things from the inside and the outside, right? Of how are we reaching out to alumni so that they are present and engaged to be modeling that behavior? And then how are we setting that expectation that you should be around this? I think at the end of the day, people are going to go where they feel most valued. Like if you treat me with respect and dignity and you care about my life and you know what's going on and you occasionally ask me for $20 to donate to Jimmy V or whatever our philanthropy is, I'm going to do it because I know that that matters to you. I know that that exists because we have a relationship there. How do you get to the relationship stage? I think getting to be able to connect with folks and examine some of the romantic components of being in a fraternity and some of the more tangible, logistical, mathematic, like clinical components of being in a fraternity. What am I going to get out of it, right? You don't go to the mechanic for your car just because you want to hang out with the mechanic. It's a benefit that the mechanic is cool and doesn't overcharge you, right? So what are the components that you get and help get back on the road with that mechanic, using that a comparison analogy there, that help you progress, right? So navigating down to our alumni component, we have some, how could I be better invested in life skills, buying a car, house, setting up a 401k IRA, right? So when would you incorporate that? Would you incorporate that in an undergraduate experience? Like if I'm a first year student and a freshman and I jump into a session with alumni and they're talking about 401ks, I'm either going to be totally into it, or I'm going to be like, what in the hell is this? I got FIFA to play, or some mixed medley, right? And so it's important to examine, where do we roll this out and how do we add this level of value? To be quite honest, I don't know any mid-30-year-old that isn't like, oh, I would totally attend this 401k. What is a Roth IRA session? And my fraternity is hosting it? Can we add this to a convention? Like if we ever get to a point where we have an in-person, face-to-face thing again, yeah, we're going to do a ritual thing. We're going to talk about living our values. We're going to do this or that. But like, is there a regional or national or international conference that we could kind of go, here's what a 30-year fixed mortgage actually looks like from our brother that is a realtor and or lending agent that works for Wells Fargo or whatever, right? So then you could be tapping in and investing in them in those ways. How do we tap into those individuals that are more than just their position or title, right? So we all get the newsletter that celebrates an alumnus that is the person that walked on the moon, right? Like that has achieved this moment of grandeur that we need to celebrate and put our feather in the cap, right? That is that person that back in the day, there was like, one of my roommates ended up joining Delta Tau Delta, and they had a t-shirt that was like, don't you want to be one of us? And it had every famous Delta Tau Delta on the back of the shirt, like Will Ferrell, and everybody was like, well, I love old school. Like, we got to do that. It's an old movie. Like, I get it. But like, so we have those humans that we kind of say, look what fraternity helped contribute to their life to help them walk on the moon, make it as a famous actor or what have you. Like every fraternity has those people. But what about your regular Joe Schmoes? So how do we highlight that guy that is able to set up his 401k and IRA so that he's able to retire early? And he's retiring at 55 or whatever, and he's taking that hit financially because he wants to go travel the world with his spouse, right? So how are we tapping into your general regular alumni that aren't the ones that are famous in Hollywood to celebrate them? So are we utilizing resources at our headquarters? Are we utilizing our database and those kind of things? If I'm an alumnus and Timothy is an alumnus that's facilitating connections with alumni, and you send me a survey that's not overburdened, right? It's not an 80 question survey. I'm talking 20 questions max. You already have my contact information, so you don't really need to be asking like, maybe my phone number, like, do you have a preferred number? Do you have a preferred mechanism of texting versus calling versus what have you? What is your level of time commitment that you're willing to give versus able to give? Because there's a difference there. I'm able to give 40 hours a week after I get off work, but I only have 12, or vice versa, right? I'm only willing to give you 1 hour a week. And what does that look like, right? And how am I rewarded for that? Besides this, like the overall general feel good emote of, I drove 3 hours out of my way to attend the chapter meeting. That was an hour about bickering about a green t-shirt and what color green it was. Now I got to get home, and I'm a single father of 3, and I got to feed these kids, get their homework done, get their teeth brushed, and get them into bed. I'm in a different life space than these guys that are arguing about who's going to be our sorority sweetheart, or what is our theme going to be for Greek week, or what have you. That's not to say that both things aren't important, because in those life space, that's important to them. So how do we capture what's important to those folks? We survey them. We get an idea. What do they want? What do they need? What do they care about? What opportunities to connect and be involved with other alumni? Ongoing developmental opportunities geared for alumni, like these Phi Chats, these things like this. I would not be surprised if every organization, I don't know why every organization isn't doing this. So like, to be quite frank, like if you have the funding to have a staff member coordinate this, And this could be something that like a leadership consultant could help assist with, like potentially. I mean, I don't know, like a traveling consultant. I mean, I definitely have no idea, but like, why isn't every organization doing this? So like kudos to both of the Phi groups that are doing this, because this gives you the space to potentially network and connect with other alumni without fear of getting COVID, without being put in a position where I'm being invited to a party, after party at a bar, and maybe I'm in recovery. Um, like I don't have to like do those awkward like handshakes. Oh, what do you do? That everybody really loves. Everybody loves those conversations. Um, so I'm being sarcastic when I say that. Nobody likes that. And nobody likes being asked what they do. You'd almost would rather just wear a giant placard that says, I work in business. I'm an accountant. Leave me alone. I'm here. Right? Like that's pretty much how all that goes. So how do we navigate that? How do we capture all the voice of the alumni and what the undergraduates need? And then how do we show value and prove value? That's the end. That's all of the talk that like I had prepared. And navigating a lot of this, how do we help do sessions for them to focus on what is professional development in my experience, right? So if I survey all of our alumni, or I survey our regional, or if I'm Timothy and I'm surveying the alumni that are nearby, and I know that they're looking for ways to capitalize on their 401k, what are best interview practices? Like, what are questions that I should be asking in an interview? Does my fraternity provide any resume editing or proofreading? To me, that is incredibly valuable, because as an undergraduate, you don't take advantage of that as much as you should. And then when you're an alumnus, you start emailing your resume to everyone that probably doesn't know what they're talking about. Like, to be quite honest, right? So like if we're able to coordinate with a campus that we have a good partnership with, and they bring, and we say, hey, well, like, do you have anybody in your career center that's also affiliated? Would they be willing to host a Phi chat like this, where they do a top 10 things to put in your resume, top 10 things to not put in your resume, and it's an hour long? That is going to be so much worth my time. I'm going to show up, and I'm going to continue to participate,
Yeah,
at least
and I
from
think
my purview.
I think even a local chapter could do this, and if it's something that's geared towards younger alumni and the juniors and seniors in the chapter who are getting ready to graduate and should be working on their resumes and their cover letters and how to have a good solid interview. There's that cross pollination there with like the older undergraduate members and the younger alumni, and it's a program that's the chapter could put together and invite alumni to build those relationships and really start to help the alumni feel there is something here, and I can, the chapter has done something really nice for me, giving me this opportunity to hop in and learn something and develop a skill. Let's see how I can support them. Whether maybe I can do something similar and return the favor in a similar way. Maybe I can donate a few extra bucks this year, or I can go to visit their next meeting or something. It's some of it is about being creative. I think a lot of it does focus on making those connections and making that communication and finding out what alumni want at the chapter level, and then for myself who works at the headquarters level, trying to think about how we can build that for alumni in general, and help keep them engaged, and that also can help them want to maybe work more closely at a chapter level too, as they've continued to see more value in the fraternity.
Thank you, Drew. Timothy, do you have any thoughts? I can keep rambling if you just want to have me just wax poetic about it, but you're welcome to type in or.
No, I think Drew said it pretty perfectly.
Yeah. I know this has been when I was at Phi Psi, working on our health and wellness content. This was a regular conversation too, of like, we're putting on a lot of health and wellness content for the undergraduates. Is there stuff that we can put out for alumni? And it was kind of a mixed bag, unfortunately. Some alumni were like, why would the fraternity be providing this? But we did get some interest, and people were asking, some focus on heart health and talking about managing chronic health conditions came up a little bit. So that was an area that we did find that we could make some progress from the Elevate side, the health and wellness side with Phi Psi. And I think that was helpful. It was helpful to do that surveying to find out what they actually wanted and also just start to put the ideas in their mind of like, oh, the fraternity as a national organization could be providing us different things. And maybe it's time to rethink as an alumnus what that involvement looks like too. So.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of echo, and this is what the sticky
Mm-hmm.
on the right is about a little bit, is to echo some of like the sentiments that you're identifying. Like, we have these humans that are likely incredibly skilled in a variety of components, but are there any other additional resources or trainings or components that we need to be giving them, not to like indoctrinate them on some sort of like new and educational initiative that we're rolling out to the undergraduate chapters. It's so that they feel prepared to talk about it, right? Because then if I'm the chapter president and I have a solid relationship with my alumni advisor and I email them and I'm like, yo, I just got this email from Drew that's talking about how somebody's going to come to our chapter and lead a session on hazing. Have we had a problem? And then the chapter advisor needs to kind of go into like defensive mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they've been communicated with, right? And then they're like, no, like this is just part of what we're rolling out and XYZ kind of things. But is there a level of investment to be supported in doing their work and resources that exist, whether it's trainings or other components, right, that can help create a little bit of buy-in? But there is a stopgap, or at least a bit of a step up when it comes to, I'm an undergraduate and this is all that I view fraternity is good for. And nothing has really changed here. And now I'm an alumnus. I'm still like resting on that initial ideology of this is all the things that I get out of it. And it could be leadership development, friends, brothers, a place to party, like leadership growth, a job connection network, whatever my reasons or rationale for joining, committing to join and retaining and then graduating as a member. How do we build on that with our alumni, right? And ultimately, when we get down to this kind of session, is like, I know that we only had like 2 people join us, Drew, but to me, this is the stuff that never gets touched. Like, to be quite, like, from my perspective, this is the stuff that falls onto the category of, if we have time, we'll get to it. But we never have time, right? Because there's a crisis on this campus, or there's a thing happening nationally in this zone, or we need to work on this component, or what have you, due to limited resources and availability with alumni. So I think there's an opportunity here with Timothy, Joseph, other folks that joined today to kind of examine, like, how can we utilize your strengths and talents more, right? Is there an opportunity for us to develop a subcommittee that we work with in headquarters land, of volunteers that are humans that help build our alumni resources, right? Whether it's trainings, they facilitate the trainings, they connect us with a speaker that does the training, they have a track that they do during like some sort of regional or national conference, where this is just for you. If you want to go to the recruitment 101 session as an alumnus because you're the recruitment advisor and you think that chapter numbers are the only thing that are important in the world, go for it, right? Go ahead and attend that. We're going to have this 401k session at 8 a.m. and then at 11 a.m. we're going to have this session on like how to navigate masculinity, or what happens when a brother comes out of the closet and identifies in the LGBTQ plus population, and it creates a ripple effect within the chapter. How do I navigate that as an alumnus? Because like, it's going to happen, right? Like, what happens if we have the fraternity president get arrested because of a DUI? Whether we like it or not, I'd rather us be prepared for it and never have to use those skills than not. So I think navigating where are our avenues, where are our components, where we examine and explore these different kind of components, where we reflect and tap into our alumni. But I think you have an incredible point, and Timothy echoing it, is why should I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did my part, my 4 to 5 years or however long I was an undergraduate. I held all of these positions. I did my part to keep fraternity afloat. And I don't necessarily see my place as it being like an elder statesman of the fraternity that has all of this historical knowledge and context and is the living ombudsman of the fraternity. I don't see my place there. I don't see my place here. What is my place? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of opportunity that either of the Phi groups could do, where they identify, here's how we can welcome you home to fraternity in this way. And it's like a choose your own adventure buffet of, you can join in on these chats, you can invest in these components, this some of the things that we're identifying to you. And then if that isn't good enough, let us know. But like I said, it depends on how much time is available and what staff hands you have for it. But I think that some of what it could be done is like, what is the voice of the membership when it comes to identifying our undergraduates and what they want and need from their alumni, and then examining and potentially revisiting those expectations to kind of say, is that all you expect of those folks? That's why the title was the way that it was, because it's like, yeah, I mean, I'd love to donate, but I'm also like in my 30s with not a lot of liquid capital and a mortgage, like, and an old 1920s house. Like, she needs some work, right? So like, if it's like a new floor or a new bathroom reno versus donating for t-shirts, to be quite frank, I might choose the renovation, right? So how can we make their engagement something different? And is it a session where we know that brother Bob, who is in his mid 40s, just did a huge home makeover and he's got like all kinds of stuff? Maybe he should tell us about it. How did you finance it? Who did you hire for it? Could we use those contractors if we have a fraternity house? Could we use those contractors for like rebuilding this thing or what have you, right? So how do we navigate and lean into those networks in a different way besides, hey, can you give me a job, please?
Yeah, and I think that raises a good point of if for undergrads who decide to watch this video as a recording later, what are the things, and you've talked about this a little bit, but like, what are the things that you as a chapter need? And yeah, money's always great, but what other things? You know, how else do you want to see the the alumni involvement? What alumni do you already have? What special skills or experience do they already have that could be beneficial besides just being, alumnus on a file someplace? Like, how can we utilize these people? And then there's a conversation within the chapter. What do we need? There's the conversation with the chapter to alumni. Hey, how can we support each other? The conversations with headquarters to alumni. How can we, as a national organization, better keep you involved and help you feel that connection to the fraternity, which in turn, hopefully, trickles down to wanting to do more stuff with the undergraduate chapters near you. So there's all these little pieces. And I think for the undergrads listening, doing some of that homework and figuring out, what do you actually need? Money's great, but what else? And what other alumni do you already have? And what special skills can they utilize? If you're in a spot where you don't have a lot of alumni, like I know Washington State's always tricky, and it's always been for Delta Chi and for Phi Sig. You have populations in like Spokane and in Seattle, but they might be focused on another chapter. So how do we get those connections? The magic of Zoom helps us spread our radius a little bit better. And maybe we can talk to our headquarters like, hey, can we find alumni in this radius, in this range? But just being creative about what you need and how you ask for it, I think is really important. And then for alumni who watch this, just, thinking about, what do you want to do? Thinking about putting to the question of like, how do you want to get involved? There's a lot of different ways now to get involved besides just being a chapter advisor. And the role of chapter advisor has changed a lot too, I think, with all of our organizations. And even in the last couple of years, the idea of like, well, you're a successful student, so you'll make a good chapter advisor, isn't always accurate. And I think a lot of our groups, I'm pretty sure Phi side, Timothy, correct me, I know Phi Sig had been working on doing advisor trainings to help build skills and help people catch up, especially if they're older and they can better connect with this generation of college students. So like making those connections too. So if you're an alumnus watching this, like what is it that you want to do? What is the connections you want to make? Like James said, how much time do you really have to invest in it? Which is fine. If you only have an hour a week or 2 hours a month to do it, that's fine. But being able to figure out what you can do with those 2 hours a month, support your fraternity, would be kind of that homework to do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's the number of times that I've had someone that has become president at my undergraduate chapter text me and say, hey, I'm president, and like just wanted to say hey because I heard about you, whatever that means. But like, and then like 3 months later is like, hey, do you got time to talk? because like I'm about to pull my hair out. These guys are driving me nuts. That is to me 1,000 times more valuable than like $100 check that you're going to burn on like decorations for the homecoming party float.
Right.
Like, so, but knowing that I'm available for that is a different thing, right? So then it's like, what does the network truly look like? Because if I'm more than just I'm not from Washington State, but like, if I'm more than just a Delta Chi from Washington State, then is there a mentorship network of folks that like all of our past chapter presidents, all of our chapter recruitment chairs, XYZ, is there an opportunity for us to develop some sort of communication, whether it's Facebook group, like Discord channel, whatever it might be, to where like you could be in the middle of like nowhere in Idaho and want to talk to a Delta Chi and have somebody that like maybe has the same career path as you, or maybe a different connection to the fraternity that you do, whatever it could be. And then as an alumnus, here's a form that I fill out where I say, here's all the things I'm interested in talking about and the level of support that I have. So then headquarters can do some level of like big brother, big like little brother kind of moment here where like, I'm not from the same chapter as you. Like my chapter size was 12 and you're 112. Like I don't know much, but I'm here for you. And I think that would be really cool to navigate and examine is like, how do we develop and connect to the technology in that way? And examining, okay, what are the metrics for this? So ultimately getting to a point of maybe I'm being too capitalistic in my approach with this, right? Of like, from a consumer standpoint, as an alumnus, what am I going to be what am I going to be getting with my dollars, aka my time that I'm spent here? And then for me, as an alumnus, as an organization, as well as an undergraduate, what if I was to say like, oh, that person's a great alumnus, like they're super, like they're like the best alumni member we have. Okay, define best. What metrics exist for best? What metrics exist for actually achieving effective and engaged alumni like status? Are there certain things that I need to hit every year to be considered in good standing with the fraternity? Or what is my overall, just like, what am I looking for, like you said, Drew, out of alumni to kind of say, like, these are great alumni that we need to have engaged still. And what is the metric? Is it because like he was the recruitment chairman 20 years ago and he had the biggest pledge class ever, so we need to continue to connect with him? Well, 20 years ago, recruitment was a lot different in a variety of ways. So it's like, that's great. I'm sure he has a lot of valuable insight into like how people engage and what other metrics exist for him to be a good alumni. Because I think that not every brother is perfect. Not every member is perfect, right? So like, not to toss that out there, but what is the base level standard and expectation that individuals need to meet to be considered contributing members of the organization as alumni, as undergraduates, whatever it could be? And then what is our level, right? So is it showing up to the 1 to 2 social events a year? That could be it, and that's fine. No judgment. Like, I'm not trying to, chase your bliss, but like, is it some other kind of components? And then how do we know that that's actually happening? You could be a great alumnus that's super involved, and everyone like identifies as like, oh, this person's great as an alumnus, or this person is the eye roll whenever they call our chapter president or the headquarters, right? Like everybody's like, oh God, this person's calling, great. But what's behind that? Why? Is this the only way that this person knows to give? Is to be a pain in the butt or to be overly involved? So it's like, what is the overall kind of symptom of that? And then is that the cause, or is there something else? I'm rambling and I'm going over on time. Timothy, I want you to feel like this was worth your time. Is there anything that you want to talk about before we go?
No, I think you guys did a great job with the time that we had and everything else. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. Hopefully, Timothy, hopefully whatever works for you. Drew, I'll export these as PDFs and send them to you so you can have them in case people, these are just random questions. I'm more than happy to do this again. I know we didn't have like a huge turnout. To be quite frank, we're seeing this with the level of Zoom burnout that everybody has at this stage.
Yeah.
So I'm more than happy to do this again. If folks want to contact me to pick my brain, I'm happy to talk with you about it as long as I'm not like at work, because That's not my
Yes.
job.
Yes.
But like, not to be like that, but I'm happy to talk with you on my lunch break, or in the morning before work or after work or what have you, to kind of navigate, because I think that this is a population that we just haven't tapped into effectively.
Mhm.
And so that people only engage in the ways that they know how, instead of kind of giving them some structure to play within, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it actually made me think of a conversation I had with someone just the other day about some of our um, fellow organizations that are, part of NPHC or NALFO or other groups that charge alumni dues and have that level of alumni commitment, and how, like, these people that have given their 4 years as an undergraduate and continue to still pay a certain level of dues each year to continue to have an active status as an alumnus and are actively involved within their local communities. And I'm just thinking about how I feel like in some ways we're missing a big boat there. The idea of just the money part, even if it was $10 a month to maintain, an active alumni status, it's $120 a year from each alumni. And that's however many alumni you have. That's a ton of money. But also, it's just this active decision for alumni to purposely stay engaged. And then you have this group of people to pull from that are making the active decision to be engaged. And that they are more willing, they're already an identified group that can be more actively utilized by the undergraduate chapters, by the headquarters. So I think that's just an interesting conversation for our groups. And I see organizations, a lot of us don't really have that structure. I know Phi Sig, Phi Psi, and Delta Chi all don't really have a structure like that. And once you graduate, you no longer pay dues to the national organization. So how are we potentially missing a lot of people, because now they're like, well, we don't owe anything to the national organization anymore. So got my brain thinking.
Yeah, I mean, a brother that was also my best man at my wedding helped me move in for my first job. That's incredible, right? The fraternity gave me that opportunity to have someone help me carry a sofa that was heavy as crap up some stairs, and figure it out and what have you.
Yeah.
So fraternity A gave me that, but like in our drive back from Nashville to Charlotte, we had a deep dive discussion about this, right? Like, as an alumnus, just speaking, I can't speak for Phi Psi or Phi Sig, but like, what do you get out of being an involved member, and how much would you pay to be considered an involved member? And we were going back and forth about like an actual price point and what you get out of it, right? Because like, there's a point in time within Delta Chi land that like you could pay to participate in a ceremony, and then if you at graduation, you should tell your parents to like do this thing where then you can forever get our like alumni newsletter printed. So you're going to withhold information from me about what's happening in the organization so that I give you money for it, right? Well, then, of course, I'm not going to know what's going on with the fraternity. Of course, I'm going to lash out if you do some sort of like very progressive membership education program that I know nothing about. Like, of course, I'm going to be upset.
I'm hearing about the last minute.
Yeah, I'm going to feel like my voice isn't heard or what have you, right? But it's like, if I paid you $50 a year or $120 a year or what have you, and I got resume review critique, I got professional coaching, I got an opportunity to connect with other alumni. Maybe my like alumni dues went towards a discount for my convention dues. So that way I could then kind of go, oh, I could swing the hotel now because like I'm registered for convention. Like I'm already registered now and I've already, like boom, I've knocked it out. Or for an additional $100, you can get your registration covered, and it can go towards a fraternity, like a brother in need who doesn't have the ability to pay or what have you, right?
Yeah.
Or a percentage of these dues goes towards, like, in a time of COVID, we've had 300 brothers get laid off. This can help them just kind of stay afloat, right? And I think that, Timothy, like the MPHC involvement, there's so many other interworkings of the networks within your non-white groups, your historically marginalized groups, that from a survival sense, right? Like from an NPHC sense, if I go to a new town and I don't connect with the alphas or the kappas there, I am not going to know what's going on. And that could be where to get my haircut to like what restaurants are super racist, right? Or what have you, right? So navigating all of that is a whole nother thing. But yeah, I think it is incredibly fascinating because if you talk to most alumni, like how much, like if they could donate XYZ number of dollars to get resources, investment, whether it's professional coaching, training, to afford some of these life skills components. Hey, if you donate $100 a year, you'll get free registration to these Phi Chats, where within that you'll be able to participate in these 5 different sessions. One where we have a bank manager come talk about what it's like to navigate these different 15 to 30-year fixed mortgage rates, and what does that look like for you? Like, not going to be a huge financial advisor component, but like, I wouldn't know the first thing to do when walking into a bank to have that conversation with somebody. But having that elite access, right, to be able to do that would be incredible. And it goes towards you helping, and you can earmark it, right? So like $120, why don't you earmark 30 of it for your undergraduate chapter? Boom, funneled right to them. $100 goes to the headquarters, $30 goes to this, and there I am. Yeah, I mean,
and then that becomes an awesome recruiting option too. Here's something very tangible as an alumnus. As you pay your alumni dues, you maintain access to all these really great resources. Great, right? I think that's also, it lets alumni realize, oh, we're getting a benefit from the organization. How can I return that favor to the national organization or to a local chapter I work with? And it's this self-fulfilling cycle once it's started. So
the only caveat being, like, it creates a customer mentality, right? I'm paying for this product and I need to get it back. I need you to do what I want you to do, which could be positive or negative depending on what that is, right? I don't want you to, like, I want to revert back to like 18 whatever, and I don't think we should have any members that aren't white in our organization because I'm a customer. That it ain't going that way. So like, that's not good. That's not going to work. But like, it also creates this component of like, I think you need to do more investment in our members about mental health and wellness because of the rates of men that are ideating or are committing suicide. That's an issue. We need to dedicate more of our educational programming to this and less about hazing or less about substance abuse, or tie them in a different way. So it gives you some voting power to a degree of like, this is where I think education should go. I don't know. I mean, as per usual, I ran over on my time. I apologize to everybody that thought they were going to be watching a 1 hour long video and it's an hour and 8 minutes. Timothy, thank you so much for participating and hanging out. If there's anything I can help with, please let me know. Drew, thank you so much for allowing for me to participate in this. If there's anybody that wants me to help with this again, I'm happy to do this. I sent Drew like 4 different session topics that I love talking about. I love talking about this. I love helping. So if there's something I can do to help your fraternity, please let me know, besides giving you $7 million because I don't have it. But whatever I can do to help, please let me know.
Yeah, thank you, James, so much for joining tonight. Appreciate you giving your time. This is your second Phi Chat, one in the summer, one this season so far. So I really appreciate you continuing to support this program. Like I said before, the session is being recorded, so you know, those of you who are watching it as a recording, thank you for viewing it post. I hope that this is helping to stir some ideas on how you as an undergraduate can help either identify more alumni support or think of some more creative ways to get those connections and get alumni involved with your local chapter. If you're an alumnus watching this, maybe this gives you a few new ideas on how you can branch out and start making some connections with maybe the local chapters near you or the national organization, and seeing, giving you some new ideas on how you could potentially put your skills to use. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your staff at Phi Kappa Psi or your staff at Phi Sigma Kappa. If you want to reach out to me, it is just drew@phisigmakappa.org. And yeah, I think that's all for tonight. Thank you all for joining, and thank you all for viewing, and have a good night.